Hey, everybody. Apologies for that little technical difficulty there at the beginning. It seems like we always seem to have those, especially on afternoon webinars. But anyway, welcome to the Fall 2024 Ambassador Town Hall. My name is Jessica Westner. I'm a communications specialist at NCHEC. I'm filling in for Ms. Ozzie Houston today. The Ambassador Program is an initiative of NCHEC's Division Board for Professional Preparation and Practice, which is a mouthful, so we affectionately term them Triple P. I'll provide a brief overview of the board and Ambassador Program, and then I will introduce our two moderators and four panelists today. First, I wanted to point out that Triple P works with colleges, universities, and accrediting agencies to improve their programs and promote best practices in health education settings. And they also monitor and update our certification application and eligibility process. So in 2016, the Ambassador Program was established to help kind of bridge the gap between students in health education programs and kind of what NCHEC credentialing is all about. So ambassadors share the importance and value of CHES or MCHES certification through various outreach efforts. And to date, there are over 180 ambassadors that are active. So real quickly, the purpose of today's town hall is just to bring together NCHEC ambassadors to provide a space for discussion, to share ideas, talk about best practices, and kind of brainstorm ways to help support you in the role of the ambassador. And after our panel discussion, we'll also provide a quick overview of the updates to the Ambassador Toolkit and provide you with a timeline to help with exam communication. So let me introduce you to today's session moderators. They are Triple P directors, Holly Moses and Leigh Lane. Dr. Holly Turner Moses is an instructional assistant professor at the University of Florida. She's an MCHES, and Holly holds a master's degree in health science education, as well as a bachelor's degree in health science education, both from the University of Florida. She's also a member of several professional organizations, including National Eta Sigma Gamma, American School Health Association, and the Society for Public Health Education. So currently, she's completing a 5-year term for the Triple P board, and she also sits on the NCHEC Marketing Committee. Next is Dr. Leigh Lane. She is Executive Director for the Brunswick Wellness Coalition in North Carolina, and she serves as adjunct faculty at the University of North Carolina, Wilmington. She also holds a doctorate degree in health administration, a graduate degree in business administration, and an undergraduate degree in community health education. Leigh became CHES certified in 1995 and an MCHES at its inception in I believe, 2011. As an active member of several associations, she serves on the Triple P board and is significantly vested in her state chapter of North Carolina SOFI. And moving on to our stars today, our town hall panelists. First up is Tina Marie Devlin. She's a teaching instructor at East Carolina University in Greenville. She has been in this role since August 2022 and is responsible for delivering core public health courses to undergrad students and serving on various departmental and university level committees. In addition to her teaching experience, Tina has over 18 years in planning, developing, implementing, and evaluating health education programs in a variety of settings. She earned her CHES certification in 2008 and her MCHES in 2019. And Tina has served as an ambassador for a little over a year. Next, we have Dr. Joy DeLeon, and she is an instructional assistant professor at Texas A&M in the School of Public Health in the Department of Health Behavior. She received her PhD in health education and health promotion from the University of Alabama, Birmingham, and received her CHES in 2017. And with a background in research on sexual health and substance use behaviors among young adults, Joy brings a wealth of practical knowledge to her teaching, and her commitment to training the next generation of researchers and practitioners is quite evident in her teaching methods and dedication. She is also in her first year as an ambassador. Next is Amanda Lynch-Oney. She is an associate professor at the University of Cincinnati, where she serves as the health promotion and education concentration director for the undergraduate public health program. She completed her bachelor's in human development and family studies with a minor in health promotion from Bowling Green and her graduate degree in health promotion and education at the University of Cincinnati. She serves on the boards for Ohio Sophie and National Eta Sigma Gamma. She earned her CHES in 2009 and her MCHES in 2014, and she's been coordinating and facilitating CHES study groups at the University of Cincinnati every fall and spring semesters for the last decade. And this is also her first year as an ambassador. And then we have Karis Davidson. She serves as a faculty member in the health science department at Mercy University in Dobbs Ferry, New York. She holds an MPH and a DRPH in health promotion, education, and behavior, both from the University of South Carolina Arnold School of Public Health. And as a teacher and researcher, she focuses on linking public health research and practice and accelerating the adoption of evidence-based practices in communities. She's been CHES certified since 2015 and an ambassador since 2020. So after those introductions, I would like to turn it over to Leigh then.
Welcome, everybody. We are so excited that you could join us for today. And the first thing that we're going to start off with is a panel discussion. We've got some excellent resources here through our panelists, and we want you to be able to gain some insight from them. These questions are things that came about from the ambassador survey that Ms. Ozzie completed a little while ago, and that's how these questions got formed, just to give you a little background. So panelists, welcome, and let's get started. The first question is, how do you communicate information from NCHEC about the CHES examination and related information to students and prospective candidates? And any one of you may start, or we can go in order, or you do not have to answer per question.
Well, this is Amanda. I can go ahead and get started if you don't mind. So I would say, like most of us, we talk about the CHES exam in our courses. So in our introductory health promotion and education course, we talk about it there. It's discussed briefly in the program planning course. And then, of course, we send emails to our students through Canvas. And I would say it's definitely like the reminders around sign-up dates and those sorts of things are really pushed out to our students who are in their final semester. So typically those who are doing their internship and will be graduating soon. So they're getting to that 90-day option, being able to take the test. So, and then we also do typically like once a year, we'll have a lunch and learn focused on the CHES exam, where it's optional. We feed our students and they can come out and essentially be reminded of all of the things that we taught them that in that one particular lesson, you know, their first or second year as a student. But yeah, that's kind of how we communicate things at the University of Cincinnati.
Thank you.
Hey, this is Tina Marie. Well, a few of us here in the Department of Health Education and Promotion here at ECU are CHES or MCHES. And so I oversee the newsletter for the minor in public health, and my colleague who's MCHES oversees the newsletter for the majors in public health. And so we pretty consistently, I would say at least once a month, we are including something in the newsletter which goes out to hundreds of students about NCHEC and CHES and take the exam, upcoming events, different seminars that NCHEC puts on, such as this one. So we use the newsletter tool that goes out once a week. Mine goes out on Tuesdays. My colleague, her newsletter goes out every Monday. And that way every week the students are receiving information related to the major public health, but also NCHEC at least once a month. They are getting information that way. And it's a digital newsletter.
I'll note this is a little bit of a pain point for us at Mercy right now, and I'm Karis Davidson, is figuring out what's the best way to get information to our students. What are the information sources they're actually looking at? We do have a health science LinkedIn group for our students and alums of the health science program that we're regularly posting information to. We've been experimenting with tabling with CHES flyers to see kind of we'll just put up a table with some faculty by the lunchroom to see who wanders by. And we've had kind of mixed results with that. We found that communicating to our advising staff is super important, as well as the faculty that are teaching the classes in our health promotion concentration. So I think our most effective strategy has been to communicate to the people who are getting that face time with students. And that's generally their faculty and their advisors. And we're really just trying to get our students now to tell us, hey, what works for you and what's the best way to get information out to you. We do the mass emails to our health science students and our graduating seniors in particular. And that's not had a huge effect right now. So if anything, probably our most successful approach has been the communication with advising staff about their seniors and what's coming up.
That's awesome. Joy, do you have anything from your perspective?
Well, this is my first year as an ambassador here. And we currently are in a transitioning phase with our programs. We had a separate health education program and then a bachelor's in public health, and now those things have merged. And so how we're communicating about NCHEC varies by faculty member. For those of us with the CHES, we do talk about it in class. I make sure that, you know, on all of my documents, my credentials are there. So then students ask, what is that? You know, in class, and I mention it on my first day of classes. If anyone's interested to come discuss it with me, and then I can show them different materials that could help them prepare for that. Because we don't teach freshmen and sophomore a lot of the time. They're usually in their gen ed classes during that time. So we don't even see our students until they're juniors or seniors. And so that's when we start talking to them about that. I know that the other faculty with CHES do the same that I do. We also have an introductory course where we talk about the CHES credential and the things that are involved in that. And so, and that's part of how we do it. Right now, we don't have you guys have given me lots of info. Okay, is that better? So you guys have given me lots of ideas to share with the other faculty in our department, in particular, to start talking to our advisors about sharing it with seniors, especially because a lot of our students are public health focused, and so they haven't heard of NCHEC or CHES, except for from the faculty that have the credential.
Super. That takes us into our next question. So that's a great segue. Could you share what has been the biggest learning curve for you as an NCHEC ambassador from our panelists?
I'll jump in and kind of run with what Joy was pointing out earlier is the history and the context of the department. At Mercy, I am in a health science department, which is a little unusual for someone in health promotion and public health. And I find myself, my colleagues are all very clinical health trained people. The other concentrations are very focused on preparing students for clinical health positions like physical therapy or PA. And so I spent a lot of time being an ambassador for the field of public health and health promotion specifically in that. And that's something I didn't realize how much of that I would have to do when I stepped into this role at Mercy. And I was the first health promotion faculty member specifically dedicated to that concentration. So just the clearing up misconceptions, the talking to advisors and students about, hey, like this is what health promotion, public health is. This is the roles that these people play in the community. And hey, like there's these credentials that matter too.
Great.
I can go. That's the same thing for here. I was in a health promotion department before coming here to A&M, and that was different. Most of them had CHES credentials. Here in public health, I'm in the Department of Health Behavior, and so I have more faculty here that are aware of CHES. But when we talk about epidemiology, we talk about health policy, they're not as well versed in that. And so when we're talking about our bachelor's is it's not housed in one department for our bachelor's of public health. And so it's across departments. And so getting that promoted among our undergraduate students is difficult. And then we're still building our graduate program. And so I can talk to our students in the health behavior department, but as far as the other departments within the School of Public Health, we're not reaching them as well. And so that's the part where what do I need to do in order to promote that among them?
I have loved pictures, honestly, like the new core functions and essential services of public health diagram that has health equity there at the center. I put that on so many documents and show it to people all the time. There's also, I don't even know where I found this, but it's the stick figure diagram of the parable of the river. And I put that up probably at the start of every single class at the start of the semester and talk about how public health, health promotion, and prevention complement and work alongside the healthcare professions. It's like finding the right language and the right hook has been a challenge, but that's really key is the visuals I've found.
I would say for me at the University of Cincinnati, and I apologize everyone that I am like off camera. I'm actually standing in Cincinnati Children's. My son is in an appointment right now and are waiting for our surgeon to come in. But yeah, I've actually been our ambassador since the ambassador program started. I don't even know, when was it, like 2016 or something? And then I fell off the face of the earth during COVID and I had a baby. And so I've recently been re-added to the list. But I think that my biggest learning curve is actually just keeping up with how the exam has changed in terms of how it's being offered. So right, I'm going to put on my old person hat. Back in my day, when I took my CHES and MCHES exam, they were, it was the one Saturday in the fall and one Saturday in the spring that you had to go to a campus, and it was a Scantron and you sat in an old classroom, one of those situations. Whereas obviously now it's a computer-based test where they can do it from their own computer at home. They can go to a testing center. Right, I think that has been a challenge for me to keep up with. So when I have students who take it, I ask them to come and report back to me, like, what did they have you do? Did you put your stuff in a locker? What was it actually like? And now there's the option or the setup where they take the first half of the test and submit it, and then they do the second half of the test. So I think it literally just those logistics of how the exam has changed in the way that it's offered. It's just different, right, than the way that a lot of us took it. So it's hard to speak to a lot of things when they're not the same as it was when you did it. So
Wonderful. I think that leads us into our next question about innovation. And what innovative strategies have you implemented to better reach students, prospective exam candidates? And we've heard just a little bit of that from you, but would love to hear some expansion.
So hey, it's Tina Marie here. So something that I do, and I think another panelist mentioned this about including the credentials and different documents and signatures, but NCHEC is integrated into all of my syllabi, and I connect the course objectives and even the topics that we are going to discuss in the class with the 8 areas of responsibility. So not only do I spend probably the first day 1 of each semester talking about NCHEC, talking about my experience as CHES and MCHES, and pretty much telling them the value of these credentials if they're pursuing a health education, promotion, behavior career, but I make sure it's integrated into my course at every level, from the syllabi to the course schedule to our topics to the objectives. So it's very much in line. And I found that has been very helpful, and that piques students' interest. And I will also set up, as part of my office hours, one-on-one meetings with students to mentor them to pretty much tell them about, this is, you know, why I did CHES, why I did MCHES, what to expect, the process, the value. This is what you're going to get long after you get their credentials. And these are the things you're going to have to do to keep up with it, but this is how it's going to pay off for you. And I have really gotten better at kind of that elevator speech for NCHEC, CHES, and MCHES, and really telling them the value. Yes, you're going to pay a couple of $100s right now, but this is how it's going to pay off, I mean, exponentially for you later down the road. And so I find that those strategies have really helped get students interested, asking questions, and then taking the next step to sit for the exam and take it. And I think Amanda had kind of mentioned this as well. I actually created a Qualtrics survey that for students who have gone through our program and sat for the exam, I send them an evaluation survey and I ask them, tell me about your experience. Which areas of responsibilities were highlighted the most? What type of questions? Give me an example of questions. What could we have done better in the department to better prepare you to sit for the CHES exam?
Yeah, so I can kind of build on that. It was mentioned in my bio, but we've been doing a study group at UC for about the last 10 years, every fall and spring, to help our students prepare for the exam. I know a lot of universities, well, I don't know a lot, but I know of some universities who have like a CHES prep course, or they build it into like a pre-internship type of class. But for us, we just offer an optional CHES study group. And since we've been doing that, what we've noticed is that more of our students will sign up to take the test because they know that they have that extra support. And, you know, as faculty, we have teaching and service and research responsibilities. So that's just one of my service activities that I do every year. And essentially how we run it, and anyone can email me and I can give details, but basically we just work through NCHEC's companion guide with the practice test that's in there. And we do one area's questions at a time, except in the fall, right? Because the exam is right after the school year starts. So we do 2 areas in 1 week, but yeah, I essentially identify the question numbers and the students have to answer those ahead of time. And then we come in each week and it's like, okay, like we just did our first one yesterday and we covered areas 1 and 2. So we read through the question, the students say what they answered. We talk about what the correct answer is and why that's the correct answer. And it really just kind of, well, first of all, it obviously kind of reminds them and helps them review some of the concepts that maybe it's been a couple years since they took the class that talked about that. But it really does, I think, help prepare them for how the questions are going to be asked and what to look for in the question to help guide you to the correct answer. But that's, again, we've been doing that every year. And we just meet back like pre-COVID, we would meet in person, but we now have an online option for our program as well. And so we meet on Teams once a week leading up to the exam. And then it also allows them, like we have basically a shared Word document on that Teams page where students can just add helpful information. So at this point, I think it's like 9 pages, but it's like a good morning of your test, right? Here's a little review guide that all the students have contributed to over the years. And then similar to what was just mentioned, after the study group participants take their exam, I send them just a little evaluation of, you know, what was the benefit of participating in the study group. And I ask them, you know, did you pass? And usually as soon as they take the test, you know, they post a message in the Teams page that says I passed, and they're so excited. But yeah, and the biggest thing that they get from it, or what they say the benefit is simply having the designated study time, because otherwise they put it off. And just kind of having that like safe place to be vulnerable and to ask questions. And yeah, so that's kind of what we've been doing. And I will be honest, right, it is time consuming. And not everyone is able to participate just because of schedules, but because it's on Teams now, we can record the session so people can go back and watch them. But yeah, that's something that, like I said, we've been doing that every fall and spring since about 2013 or so, 2014.
Awesome. Any other strategies?
And I want to mention something just really quick that I did for my needs assessment planning and implementation course. And Amanda touched on this as well, is that I have taken the companion study guide and I redid and redesigned the course using the study guide. And game changer. And like Amanda, I would use some of the practice questions with the students, but it was an overhaul of my needs assessment planning and implementation course, which is, as we all know, a core course. It was a lot of work, but it was so worth it. Everything from the objectives to the material, the activities, everything redesigned using the NCHEC companion study guide as the template. And of course, I added in information from the resources that NCHEC suggests that students need to be reading and using to study, using those resources, getting those from our ECU library. I mean, going back to, books that I used in my master's degree program and integrating that into the course redesign. It was a huge overhaul, but it was worth it.
Okay. Well, I think that we're going to transition slides and look at, which you've already mentioned some challenges at this point, but I wanted to see if we could talk about a challenge that you have encountered as an ambassador and how you were able to address it.
I'll say that an ongoing challenge I've dealt with is being the public health promotion person in a clinical care focused program. And there have been a lot of challenges that have come along with that. Like when I arrived here, the curriculum had been designed by people who didn't have a background in health promotion. So our students who were graduating with a good concentration in health promotion weren't actually eligible for the CHES exam because they weren't getting those 12 hours of process courses. So I have to come with receipts, honestly. I have to be in touch with the staff at NCHEC, with Dr. Amy Hedman, who served on a number of the NCHEC boards, who many of you know has been a wonderful resource, and say, hey, like, back me up on this. We don't have enough credit hours in our program. And taking that to the undergraduate curriculum committee to build out and introduce and create our Intro to Health Promotion course. And then there's been the ongoing, okay, so now it's just been the last couple of years that our graduating seniors have actually been eligible to sit for the CHES exams, or having these conversations around, okay, what's eligibility? Yes, okay, you have this concentration in health promotion, but you don't have the credit hours, particularly the core credit hours. You're going to need to take those classes someplace else if this is a path that you want to take. And trying to make the communication as clear as possible, talking with our advising staff, because at first our health promotion classes weren't filling up and they weren't running. So they were just having students substitute other classes. So I kept emailing and pointing out, hey, you have to have conversations with the students about the fact that this is going to affect their eligibility for the CHES exam. And if that's a credential they plan to take, they need a backup plan. So it's been communication, it's been advocating and serving as an ambassador for the discipline and for the profession, and creating handouts and making sure that they're getting in the hands of the advising staff here, as well as the faculty who aren't trained in the field.
Those are some good points. Joy, it sounded like that you may have had some challenges that you encountered as well and are continuing to address those a little bit.
Well, I just became ambassador in July. So I'm talking with our health faculty, which is the program that we merged with in public health. And that's what's similar, they're worried about, are students still going to be eligible? Based on the way our curriculum, and are we still going to have the same level of students that are passing the exam now? And because our curriculum is going through changes because of the merger. And so we're also undergoing CEF accreditation type things as well in the middle of that. So we have to make sure all of these things align, and are students still getting the same level of instruction from every single faculty, that still allow them to get the materials that they need in order to, or to get the content that they need in order to have the understanding, in order to take the exam so they can pass the exam. And so our school is very large, and so I haven't even met all of the faculty, to be quite honest. And so that, I feel that's going to be a challenge in the next couple of years as we start having more students go through the program with the new curriculum, as we phase out the health program as it is and teach out that degree plan, and move into our new degree plan. I think I'm going to encounter many challenges that are for our curriculum.
Thanks, Joy. Okay, Tina, do you have anything to add?
I would definitely think a challenge that maybe the other panelists have encountered as well, and I can't say there's a solution to it, but there are a few of our students that express a great interest in the exam, but don't have the financial resources to pay for it. I mean, we're in Eastern North Carolina. For, those of y'all are familiar, it's a rural area, Eastern North Carolina. A lot of our students, are first generation. They may come from, they may not come from a lot of resources. So that's a big, a big barrier. We do talk about the Cleary scholarships. We encourage them to apply, but I wish there was something in place in our department where we had some money earmarked for scholarships for students if they demonstrated a need, but also demonstrated, their willingness and their excitement to take the exam, and so I wish that was something that could be put in place. I mean, it could just be having multiple discussions with my leadership, who's extremely supportive. I'm very, very blessed to have a great chair, to have something available scholarship wise from our department level to provide that to students in need, because we definitely don't want any barriers to prevent a student from growing and thriving in their future career.
Great, thank you. So this is our final panel discussion question, and it's kind of a little bit of a challenge, maybe for some, not for others. Explain whether you find it easy, difficult, or maybe somewhere in the middle to regularly engage as the NCHEC ambassador at your institution, and also achieve the NCHEC ambassador reporting requirements.
I will say, Tina Marie again, I will say it's easy, and I say it's easy because the leadership support, I think, is where it starts. And we have a culture and an environment here in health education promotion at ECU where we have multiple CHES and NCHES faculty, but also it is supported and encouraged from the top. And so if a few of us who have the credentials were to bring an idea to our chair, it would be supported. And if we had a plan, she's going to support it. So it's been easy for me to really promote it, integrate it into my syllabi, my courses, redesign my courses, put it in newsletters and other communication, have these one-on-one meetings with my students. It's been quite easy. And the reporting is easy. I mean, NCHEC lays it out. Y'all lay it out very well with the reporting system. It's self-explanatory to me, and just go in, and I try to keep documentation of all of my activities in my own separate, my notes and documents, and everything's been easy.
Joy, you probably have not gotten that far yet. So Tina will be a good one to help and support that. Carice, how about you?
I'll say it's kind of in the middle. Like as Amanda mentioned earlier, like I had 2 babies between 2020 and now. And so those years where I've been out on maternity leave for a good chunk of the year, and I've spent the rest of the time trying to plan my maternity leave, getting those activities in there has been a bit of a challenge. Going back to the structure of the university, and I feel like that's kind of been an ongoing theme, is thinking about how your program, your department's set up and what the leadership support there is. Mercy is an institution that's, our identity is providing a quality education at as low a cost as possible so that everyone can have access to a quality education if they want it. That means that so many of our classes are taught by part-time faculty, which is great because they bring their connections and their boots on the ground experience in their different fields. But it also means that our core faculty have a really heavy service load, and that trying to connect with each of those part-time faculty to get in their classes and talk to their students can be challenging. One of the best things, and I was at Sophie, I think this is fairly recently, this is maybe March of 2023, maybe 2022. I was talking with folks about some of the challenges that I was having in my role, and their recommendation was, hey, you need an advisory council. And so reaching out to folks who are here in, the greater New York City metro area or across the river in New Jersey who are CHES certified and are working in the field to, again, provide that backup and those receipts for me as the NCHEC ambassador here has been a really core thing, and to have them take a look at things and provide feedback and kind of validate what I'm saying as far as the strengths and weaknesses of what we're doing with students has been essential. So it's been difficult, but there's been a path through and forward that's been very rewarding.
Super. Okay, well, that ends our panel discussion. Holly, I think you might be up.
Thank you, Leigh, and thank you, panelists. Such a great examples of the trials and tribulations, right? The things that are going well and that are working well and can probably be replicated elsewhere, but also some challenges that we continue to have. So thank you all so much for sharing about your experiences as the NCHEC ambassador within your institutions. I imagine also that the information you shared closely resonates with our participants. And so now is the time where we can work together and have that conversation to hopefully find some solutions, creative tips and such together. And so that's where we're at now as we transition to the roundtable. This will allow both our panelists and our ambassador participants to exchange thoughts and ideas. The overarching purpose of today's town hall is to help one another improve in our ambassador roles. That's what we're trying to achieve here. This might include us sharing information with one another, maybe tips or other strategies that have worked for us or maybe we think might work after hearing some of the challenges that were presented. We might discuss strategies for improving communication with prospective test takers. I think we should also consider going down the road of identifying materials that may be missed or maybe an NCHEC can help provide to make things a little easier for you. And so please, anything that you think of, share that. Let's have that discussion now. I don't know if you noticed earlier, I was taking notes feverishly because such great information was shared. I've been an ambassador from the very beginning, but like many of you, children have come through that, and new babies, a promotion, COVID, all the things, right? And it shakes up our work duties, and sometimes we're more active in one year than maybe we are in another, and it's not necessarily on purpose, but we have to stay true to our FTEs, right? So with this roundtable, the format is going to be structured as a question and answer session, but we really want this just to be a collaborative discussion with all of us. We invite all participants to unmute themselves when they would like to share information, or if preferred, you may use the chat box to ask questions. We're not entirely sure whether participants can unmute themselves. So if you're not able to, just raise your hand and we'll have Jess unmute you so you can ask your question. She's happy to help with that. So you might have a little bit of tech support throughout this process. I will ask questions that are from a pre-populated list, but we can move beyond that list as well. So don't hesitate to bring up another question or another point There's no problem with that at all. Anyone is permitted to respond, but not everyone needs to feel like you have to respond. So whatever you're comfortable with, if you have something to share, please do. The goal of this roundtable is to engage the audience to identify how NCHEC can best support you and to just in general get tips and resources from our fellow ambassadors across the nation. Okay, I think we're ready then. So wherever the discussion leads us, let's look forward to this enlightening discussion, and we'll start with the first very broad question. Next slide, Jess. How can NCHEC support ambassadors? Or maybe it's not a next slide, it might just be me talking. Nope, back.
Yeah,
I'm wrong.
I think it's just the
How can
talking.
NCHEC best support the ambassadors? So you can tell us what we're doing, what's going really well, what are some areas that of support that are needed, anything along that spectrum.
Holly, there was a question that came in about how the credentials are promoted, if there's a difference between undergraduate and master level students. I don't know if anybody can weigh in on that. Is there a difference, and how do you handle that?
I can actually provide some information on that. I recently addressed this with one of my master's students, actually earlier this week. So I have had students that are in our master's program say, I want to skip CHES and go to MCHES. And that's not quite how it works. So to qualify for MCHES, you are either a CHES and have gone through your first year of certification year. So that 5-year process, earning your 75 hours. Or if you're not CHES yet, you have to have had at least 25 credits of relevant coursework that would qualify you to sit for the MCHES exam. And you must have so many years experience. And I don't want to say the wrong number, so I'm just going to say that because I need to look it up. So it is not, and I can see where folks might hear master CHES, right? And think, oh, that means if you're a graduate student, but that's not what that equates to. It could, if that student has the correct years of experience and whether they have CHES or not. And of course, if they don't have CHES and they have the credits, but it does not directly equate to being a graduate student.
Yeah, and that's 5 full years of
5.
of experience. Yeah.
Any materials that you all can think of that have been particularly helpful? I know recently we updated the reporting form, and I hope that's been a little easier to report things.
Oh my goodness, yes. So
Good.
much better.
Good. And we can earn more of our continuing education hours through our ambassador role, which I think is really great.
I mean, I definitely think, Holly, that just having these type of opportunities, whether it's, twice a year, like on a, biannual basis, but doing things like this, or even, having that space where ambassadors, where we get to have a space where we share and talk about barriers and our wins, I think is helpful, because it's been great hearing from the other panelists. And I've been writing as well, like you, Holly. I've been also writing, from like Kiara said, I love about the advisors, and that's something I'm going to take with me moving forward, is making sure our advising team is equipped with these resources to talk about it in advising. That's a very powerful strategy that you're doing at Mercy, Kiara. So yeah, just doing things like this.
Mm-hmm. How do y'all feel about reminders, whether it's through social media, email blast, the newsletter? Are those helpful? Is the format conducive for how you might share it or forward it to students? Something that I've started doing is when I see it come across in my Instagram feed, I'll screenshot it email it to myself and kind of crop it to make it look nice. And then I send that as Canvas announcements with some just relevant links. I do think the students like just kind of a quick snapshot. So I think that's been helpful for students. And it's kind of saved me time too, in a way. Is there anything that NCHEC can do to better help ambassadors with completing and submitting that reporting form each year? And I know this was the first year that we had the updated form. We still NCHEC rather, not me, NCHEC didn't receive as many as we had hoped, certainly not nearly even half of the number of ambassadors we have. So what are your thoughts on how we might improve that communication with the ambassadors and really encourage them? Like, this is easy. This doesn't take very much time. This is the time to submit it. We want them to get credit for their efforts. Anyone from the audience? Anything that we can do to help you in your role as an NCHEC ambassador? If I were in class, I'd start calling on people, but I won't do that to y'all.
I mean, I definitely think, like we discussed, I mean, the reporting form, I mean, was definitely, it's easy, just completing everything and being able to just complete it and then, upload it was, yeah, I mean, I don't see, and personally, anything to improve, on that end. And I mean, I think the communication just, like you said, the newsletters that are sent out, I mean, I think the communication is good because you don't want to get to a point where, it's you start ignoring things because it's too much, like sometimes we do, and because we're all inundated with a lot of different notifications from different sources. So yeah, I mean, I think the process that's in place is good.
Thank you for that feedback.
Looks like we do have one hand raised,
Okay, great.
Yeah, for me, I always forget to do the report. I'm doing the work, so I would really appreciate more reminders that the report is due.
Mm-hmm.
I feel so bad, that it comes and goes like, oh gosh, I forgot to do it again. But another thing, and this is a question I have for one of the panelists, how in the world are you doing a newsletter every week? I want to know more about that.
So just let me clarify. It's not NCHEC specific every week. It is related to our entire program. Reminders for students related to our program, but also related to internships, public health events taking place in Eastern North Carolina and the state of North Carolina. So it's just a newsletter to inform students about what's happening in our department, but what's happening at the university and outside of the department as it relates to public health. But in there, we do insert some CHES information here and there, once a month or maybe every other month. But yeah, it is a weekly newsletter that me and my colleague are responsible for sending out.
Deneen, I share in your forgetfulness to, I do the work with Ambassador, but I often forget to complete the form. And to give you a little support, I am on the division board for Triple P, professional practice. And I'm also on the marketing committee and helped to revise that form. And yet Mazozi had to send me a reminder, hey, did you send me your form? Because I've not seen it. Oh, yep, I need to do that real quick. And it takes no time at all, but it is this, and anything that I feel like anything that comes from the month of April and May is, third, fourth, fifth place behind all the other things we have going on with wrapping up the spring term. And if we're teaching in the summer or working on a project this summer, so it does sometimes get lost in translation, but I do think it's possible for us to send additional reminders. And I'm not sure if Mazozi sends the emails just to the ambassadors. I think she does at least once, but we could look at more than once, or other social media applications and such as well.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other information to share? Ways for NCHEC to better support you, provide more support to you? Okay, well, before we end today, and again, thank you all for participating, but before we end today, I would like for us to share some announcements with you regarding NCHEC. And Leigh and I are going to do this, and we'll also provide some tips to you that we think that you can share, but definitely utilize as an NCHEC ambassador, but share them with students and such, and maybe even try to incorporate this into calendar reminders. And so we will get started on that. So before I move into the calendar reminders, we'll talk about the Cleary Scholarship. The Helen P. Cleary Scholarship provides financial support to students enrolled in health education related degree programs and provides that support for them to sit for the CHES examination. Dr. Cleary was the driving force behind the establishment of NCHEC and was the first person to hold the CHES credential. I'm sure all of us steadfast health education specialists know that fun fact. She was also the founding chair of the NCHEC Board of Commissioners. The scholarship, the Cleary Scholarship that is available twice a year, and it rotates with the exam cycle. So it's available for the April exam cycle and again for the October exam cycle. The review of the applications is based on criteria of a student being in a health education or health promotion profession or degree program, demonstrated need of financial support, demonstrated service to the field, minimum GPA of a 3.0, and full-time student status. The application and corresponding information can be found on the NCHEC website under the Exams and Scholarship tab, and is regularly sent out by NCHEC as we move through those scholarship cycles in preparation for the following exam cycle. This scholarship is not available to MCHES folks, so MCHES exam candidates. On the next few slides, we're going to look at key deadlines for information related to each of the exam cycles. This information will hopefully prove useful to all of you to help you organize key information, and again, to maybe think about ways to create calendar reminders that permanently stay on your calendar, that come up annually, to help keep track of some of the key information deadlines that we need to send out to our students who are considering sitting for the upcoming CHES exam cycle. On this slide, we're going to focus on the April CHES exam timeline, and we'll start by looking at the Cleary exam. So the scholarship for the April 2025 exam will actually open up later this month, and NCHEC will send notification via email, usually around a day or two after the actual scholarship date opens or right at the start of that. The application will be open for a short period of time, so it'll be important for students to start preparing in advance their application packet and the information of what they will need to collect and assemble and put forth for this application is available online. And so I think knowing, as an ambassador, knowing that this is coming down the line, even if we don't have a hard date yet of when that time period will open for the applications, we can maybe set a reminder in September. Hey, the Cleary Scholarship is about to post. It's going to be open for a short period of time. I'll send those dates as soon as I know. Here's what you can start working on now. The exam registrants who receive or are awarded the scholarship will be notified in November before the end of that advanced registration period, or with the least expensive option before that time period closes. For the April exam cycle, registration opens November 1, and it's that first month where we call it the early bird registration. That has what I tell students, this is the least expensive option, whether you're applying as a student or a professional. If you're not a full-time student, this is the least expensive option. So really strive to secure your registration during that first month. December 1st through January 31st. So the second time is always a 2-month time period. It's what we consider regular registration. So it's $50 increase from the early bird price. And then the final registration is that last month for the April exam. It's February 1st through 28th or the 29th if it's a leap year. This is considered late registration or final registration deadline, and the price increases another $50. So it's $100 difference in that last month of registration from the early bird, and that's pretty substantial. and something that we want to really stress that to students. So if we say it's open from November 1st to February 28th, that is true, but there is a significant price difference with each of those time periods. Now, moving forward to the next, we'll look at some exam study tips for the April cycle. And again, trying to place some dates here for folks. It sounds like many of us talk about the companion guide as the resource for studying for the CHES exam. I can't think of a better one-stop shop. And so this is my go-to for encouraging students when they're asking me, how do I study? What should I purchase? So obtaining a copy of the Companion Guide for Professional Excellence, 8th edition, is for the current CHES exam. This is a great review for them. So I tell them in November as they're registering, go ahead and purchase that copy. Around December, start creating your weekly study schedule. What's that going to look like for you? Everyone has a different need in terms of how much they need to study. Whether they are just not as proficient, maybe they didn't do bachelor's and master's in health ed, or they just are not the best test takers. They have a hard time maybe with retaining information. So that will be student dependent on when they really need to start studying and how much per week they need to study. But creating that study schedule will really be helpful for them to carve out time after they've registered, hopefully in that first month, through the start of the exam cycle. I do recommend beginning studying in December, start that process, especially once courses are done, grades are in, you go ahead and start studying while you have that free time before you start another course. And it's recommended a minimum of 5 hours per week on the NCHEC website, but we know that will vary per student for sure. For the next slide, we're looking at the October exam timeline, starting with the Cleary Scholarship. The scholarship opens, or the scholarship rather, is due in April for the October exam that the Cleary Scholarship would go to. And students would be notified before that first month of the October exam cycle ends. So the registration for the October exam always opens May 1st. And so before the end of that month, students would be notified if they were awarded that Cleary Scholarship. So just like with the April, we don't always have the precise dates. It's not quite an exact science as the exam registration. That is, this month and these days, and et cetera. We do know in advance what they need to assemble. We have a general timeline of when it's probably going to pop up. So anything before that we could say, hey, this is coming down the line. I'll send you the dates as soon as it presents itself, but go ahead and start assembling the materials for your application. That would be great. And then finally, for the October CHES exam, some study tips for the students. So again, same information, just adjusting those dates. So May, that first month that the exam registration is open, that early bird registration, making sure that students have a copy of the companion guide. That's going to be really important for them. And by June, create that weekly schedule of when they're going to study for the exam and how often, the length of that study time, number of hours per week, et cetera. That time period between June and October should be critical for those students really planning out each of those areas. There's 8 total, planning those out, making sure they're getting full coverage. If there's 1 or 2 areas where they need a little additional help, then budgeting in more time for themselves with that area. Next slide. And I will now hand it over to Leigh.
I know we're just a smidge over time. We only have a couple of slides to wrap up. We did get started a couple of minutes late. Very quickly, resources for you as ambassadors. Based on the feedback from the annual survey, some program implementation changes happened in the hopes of making the ambassador role a little more simple if you don't have enough time to do things. One of this is the presentation and then also the reporting form. So now we have 2 different presentations, a long version, which is the 60-minute version, and a 10-minute version. That way, if you need something that is more short, it will meet your need. If you have the opportunity to do something longer, you will have that opportunity. When these slides are sent out, you will be able to click on those presentations to access them. Secondly, we have also gotten the reporting form revision, and so we're going to look at that on the next slide. The idea behind this is to increase people getting their check by submitting the reports and then also getting the information from those reports. So as we look at the next slide on our reporting form, we see here that it's much more simple, and we're hoping that this will allow people to complete it easily. We are also getting that made available on some different platforms as well. So very simple, and you get credit for those. Those credits have increased to 3, which is awesome for everybody who's doing such hard work on that. If there aren't any questions on those 2 things, I will turn it over, I believe, to Jess.
Thank you. And thanks for bearing with us here today. Just a quick final mention here. You might or might not be aware that we do have an online community for CHES and MCHES credential holders. It would be a great way for ambassadors to get connected there. I know Tina uses it quite a bit. NCHEC Online, you can get to it from the homepage and use your CHES login information to join on there and start conversations, ask questions, so on and so forth. And of course, we're on social media platforms. We post a lot of information there. We send out the quarterly ambassador newsletter that is just to ambassadors and contains, relevant information and topics. And then we have our regular credential holder newsletters as well. So there's lots of ways to kind of stay connected. But anyway, thank you so much for joining us here today. Thanks to the panelists and the moderators. You guys are awesome. You're rock stars. This has been recorded and will be sent out probably to all ambassadors through Mazozi a little bit down the line. So with that being said, I know we're a little over time. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, contact our office and we will get them answered for you. So thanks, everybody.
Thank y'all. Y'all have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.